So my name is Dan Carney. I am with PCC Robotics, which is a sort of newish division of PCC. And what we decided to try to do today is I have gotten these awesome gentlemen who are existing customers of ours to come in and participate in a roundtable discussion. We have Mr. Carl Leiter and Mr. Tony Smoke from MRPC. We have Eric Sidlowski from the Alligator Companies, Andrew Loescher from UltraTool, and Jeff Thrun from Metalcraft. So I thank them from the bottom of my heart. They're great guys, and I think their experiences are going to be really helpful for you. So the first one is for Mr. Carl Leiter. So MRPC had traditionally not had a lot of interest in automation, but within the last, say, 18 months or so, I would say that completely changed. And would you be willing to tell us a little bit about what changed and what kind of impact that's had for you?
Most organizations know the current pressures of the workforce that's out there. And we started identifying opportunities and asked ourselves, well, why aren't we automating? We had pretty much zero automation other than the traditional Cartesian robot that you would see on an injection molding machine. So, we started thinking about this and, what fits well for our organization? Well, we need something that's somewhat modular and flexible where it's in one place one day and somewhere else the next day because of all the different setups we have. And I would say about 18 months, we now have 5 collaborative robots on site and engaged. And now we just got approval for another one in our New Hampshire location. So,
our vision was, how do we do automation in run quantities of 50, 100, 200? We have successfully been able to put a collaborative robot onto a 5-axis mill that we're running 100-part quantities, some 200-part quantities, and the changeover time is fast enough, simple enough, that it's cost-effective for us to do that. And the reason we even look this direction is we get the same problem that Carl talked about, is people. Trying to get qualified machinists is extremely difficult, has been for several years, and it's not going to get any better. But in order to grow, we've got to be able to have our people accomplish more in the day. And so for us, that was really the key, is how do we do this in a small lot environment? And it's been a huge success for us. So we're going to continue to grow in that direction because we are able to quickly switch. Takes us, I would say, 15 minutes more in a setup than it does to just on a standalone 5-axis. Add 15 minutes to deal with the robot and you're ready to go. So it works pretty well.
One of the things that I talk about quite a bit when I'm introducing the concept of collaborative robots with customers, and they're just inquisitive about the technology and why do people buy these, a lot of times we come to the topic of the ability to repurpose them. And it's interesting that in a number of cases where we've sold systems very early in a project, the customer lost the piece of business that they were all set up to automate, and we actually brought somebody here today to talk about that very topic. So Mr. Andrew Loescher had that experience happen to him, so maybe take us through that a little bit, not only just learning about what happened with your customer, but now your plans to redirect that technology and recapture some of that cost.
Just got our first UR in 2 months ago now.
Yeah.
Dan and I had been working for a couple months before that, basically to solve a labor shortage problem we had. I think 2 out of our 3 robot cell operators were out with COVID, so we were on the verge of shutting down a production line because we had no one to run them. And so I was kind of basically programming and running a job at the same time. And I'm like, I don't want to be running these robots when I got other stuff to do. So we have a line of spot welders that at the time we had our only other guy that could run the MIG welders. He was running one of these spot welders, pressing 2 buttons, taking a part off, throwing it in a bin. And I'm like, well, let's get him off of that machine, get him onto this machine. So that's kind of where the project started. And I was kind of doing my due diligence, got, put together a whole project justification report with good ROI numbers for our owner. Basically got his approval, but he was like, hey, let's go chat with the buyer from the company just to make sure that we have a good outlook on parts. And so we talked to the guy. He gave us a 5-year outlook of 250,000 parts per year, and I was like, sweet, like that'll pay for itself in a year. Literally the afternoon that Darren and I and Dan had gotten the UR workstation up and running, it was running smoothly. I get a call from our quoting engineer, hey, did you hear the news? And I was like, no, what's going on? And he was like, yeah, they're dropping the part in December. So it was kind of a big hit, but half of the point of getting UR was, hey, we could move this UR to a different spot welder in a day, and start loading parts into a different work cell, if the business goes away. So it was a pretty quick turnaround from, hey, this sucks, to let's think about where else I can put this. So I've been really appreciative of how well PCC has worked with me, and just kind of making something good out of a sucky situation.
Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit with Tony. So I'll just kind of let you run with this in general, but I'd like to know, you guys have quite a few installed now. So how are your employees, I guess, embracing or receiving this technology?
Right now, I think it's well, but there were some obstacles. One of the first ones that we installed it's a dedicated cell. Been doing that business for, 50 plus years. A lot of these employees have been there for 30 plus years, and it was, you're going to take my jobs, right? The fear of losing the jobs, and it's not going to do as good of a job as what we can do. And I think I've got regular meetings with them. They're on board now, and I think people see that, it's less overtime for them, right? If we can't get the labor, that means we're working Saturdays, we're working overtime, and people want to be home with their families. So it's been well received. I mean, but again, be prepared for, some of the folks who are maybe longer term, maybe a little bit more old school, where it's like, oh, you're going to take my job. And I think you need to, be upfront, share the vision.
A couple of the projects that we've done were automating a task or a machine that literally nobody in the building wanted to do. It was one of our better startups. We got in there at 9 a.m. and we were in full production in early afternoon. And literally everybody was walking up to that machine. I actually have a picture of this guy named Steve, and if you could see the smile on his face, I mean, he looked like he won the lottery because he knows he never has to run that machine again. That one, I love that one because it's, the concept of just, yeah, we get some payback, and there's the monetary piece, but then to me, there's this intrinsic morale piece where people are like, yes, we don't have to touch that thing ever again. So that was something that I didn't really anticipate when I got into this, but I thought that was really cool.
First off, they save a lot of space. So I come from a custom automation company where everything's caged. It takes up a lot of floor space. The first thing I noticed with these is like, wow, I can put this thing anywhere and not have to worry about, it hitting something or breaking something. We were able to do these. The first one took a little longer, but once we got the first one done, like a day or two, like they're very easy to program. You put them on the floor, you connect a few I/O points to your machine, and you're pretty much up and running. In the past, it's weeks or more for me. So it was really cool to see how quickly you could get them up and running and going. And I was like, wow, these things are going to pay themselves back pretty quick. And they're just very easy to operate. I can't say enough like how quickly and easily you can learn how to program one. I'm sure a high school kid could come in and probably learn pretty quick. I guess I compare it to maybe like an Apple versus an Android. Everything's kind of there for you in the programming structure. You don't have to go through classes really, and I think you can learn it in a lot less time than an industrial robot programming structure. I had the opposite reaction than these guys had. They were very well received, and the guys were excited to learn the new technology, and they've been running great. Since I've deployed 3, aside from our processes that we had to improve, I haven't had any other negative feedback on them. So
Do you have any advice to give to people that are about to do this for the first time?
Our first one, we didn't have the whole solution figured out, but we knew we needed to start. For us, we had a good partner, and I think that's part of it. You know, align with somebody that can build confidence in the system that together we'll figure it out. And you know, there's a question about the ROI, but I think it's pretty much, if you're looking at it, you've already decided you need to do something. So just start, even though you don't have it 100% figured out. I think that's one point of advice.
I would recommend you talk with your machinist that you're gonna, we put it on a 5-axis. We found one machinist that was excited about doing it and was willing to try and experiment. We did not have it figured out ahead of time. PCC was great to help us to learn. You gotta go forward, you just gotta try it. But from my perspective, I thought it went very smooth. But like I said, involve your people on the floor. That's the biggest thing that I could give you.
I also encourage you, if you do get into this, is, you know, you're not going to have it all figured out. Get it started, get it running, and then listen to your operators, because the ones that are out there working with this are going to come up with great ideas for staging more parts, or how to maybe cut some time out of the cycle time, or a better way to make disposition, or whatever it is. So I think there's a ton of value out there. It's always good to see people engaged and interested in the technology and throwing in and helping out. I can't thank these guys enough. Let's give them a hand.